Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of techFLIX, special series on COVID-19, where we are trying to assess impact of COVID-19 on the entire digital industry landscape. Uh, and like, like before, we have again today an eminent panel of, I would say, brand custodians who are, custodians of brands of, I would say, maybe a couple of billions of dollars, if not less. So it would be great to understand from them what's happening around marketing function essentially, and what are those impacts we are kind of measuring right now, and what do we expect going forward in such a scenario. Before we formally introduce the panel, just some requests to the attendees. First of all, welcome and for taking thanks for taking time and being with us here today. Uh, we have if we will be taking up questions towards the end of this panel discussion, and I would request each one of you to use raise hand icon on the top right of your panel, and we can bring you live onto the panel, and you can directly ask your question to the panelists. Uh, you can also send questions on the question icon. Please refrain from using chat unless it's very essential. There is always tech support available for you in case you face any issues. So you can send your query to via chat to the tech team. Also, we had last techFLIX, we had introduced the voice feedback system, wherein you could just pick up your Android phone and talk to your device and give us your feedback. But unfortunately, today Google servers are down for that service, so that's not working. We really apologize for that. We also would like to thank Communications Today, which has been our media partner for this entire series, and we are having the fifth episode of the series. So, welcome again, and formally let me introduce the panel. So we have Anand Subbiah, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications for India and South Asia Qualcomm. We have Manish Sinha, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for STL.
Hello.
Okay, he's here. Yeah. We have Anuj Sharma, Chief Marketing Officer for Xiaomi India. We have Jayatri Dasgupta, Chief Marketing Officer for PayNearby. We have Jaganathan Chelliah, who is Director Marketing Western Digital. And we have Amit Sethiya, who is the CMO for Syska, which is light years ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, panelists. Thanks for your time. And I think it's very important we talk a bit about this topic, not just to like. I'm sure we'll learn a lot of insights from today's discussion. What's happening on ground with marketing function? How is it evolving? And how are you guys realigning the entire function to kind of match up with the current requirements? Uh, and at the same time, we do have the I would say the entire advertising and marketing fraternity with us joining today. I can see a lot of people from the in the panel today from there. So definitely they would also want to understand how is marketing going to kind of play going forward, so that they align and I would say reinvent themselves to come up to their expectations, and we both kind of continue to value it to each other. So, and for the audience, we have chosen a balanced kind of panel representing the B2C brands as well as B2B brands, so that we can get a flavor of both. I would start with you, Anand. Uh, how do you see this COVID-19 changing marketing function within Qualcomm, or for a brand like yours? Uh, how are you seeing the overall marketing strategy changing for you due to this?
Yeah, thanks, Faisal, and thanks for inviting me on the panel. So COVID-19 or any such situations of prolonged, I would say, very different atmosphere altogether, would definitely have some impact. Now, I think first and foremost, the customer trends in terms of attitudes, in terms of consumption, tends to change because people are facing very unprecedented scenario, which probably means that they don't do the usual things they do in a normal day that you're used to. So keeping track of that and adapting our marketing and branding strategy to map with those changes, I think is the key thing of any marketer. It's the same with Qualcomm. I'm sure it's the same with the other panelists as well. The challenge, though, is that we don't know really, and there are so many reports that come out and say that people are watching more TV, more news channels, or playing more games. There's a lot. So I think we need to use a bit of common sense to understand what really, and I think we are also living through it as a consumer. It's not like we're just a marketer. So I think keeping our ears to the ground and keeping a complete customer view to change the roadmap a little bit, I think is important. At the same time, it's not necessary to change everything. I think we should continue to do some of the things which we always do. That need not change. For instance, I think I was in another panel discussion where Piyush Pandey actually made a point that these days, if you see a sabzi wala come to your house, he doesn't shout out the subsidies and the usual energy with which he comes. These days, he just comes and delivers a bag at the gate and he runs away. So you still need to deliver your message, but I think we need to be sensitive about the environment and keep it relevant. This is not the time to go and make a big noise for the sake of making it. In terms of the other parts of the marketing mix as well, I think there are some changes which would be beneficial. For example, with the product range that you offer, I think in tough situations like this, I think focusing on more value and might be more useful and more relevant products because the same product could be used slightly differently. We come from the communication world, and communication is a very critical part to play in social distancing. And everybody is on the smartphone or whatnot and trying to keep in touch. So our brand actually plays our role in marketing and communication has actually gone up many folds in a situation like this. If I look at messaging and even in terms of media and advertising, I mean, advertising is usually the first thing that gets cut because times are tough and people say, oh, let's not do job cuts. Instead, advertising and marketing might be a immediate lower hanging fruit. But the issue with that is we might be seen as fair weather friends, as only those who speak up when things are good. So we need to keep like I said, relevant messaging on and not completely cut. So it's not a question of taking a knife and cutting down your budget, but it's kind of looking at which parts of the budget you want to cut and which parts you actually want to increase in these times. Because there are times like maybe product push is not your number one priority, but brand and building the brand might be good. Media is also quite attractive now because there's less clutter, not too many advertisers. So I think it makes sense to leverage some of those advantages, and in cases where we can actually look at more long-term messaging, which goes beyond COVID. I think focusing on those kind of things, I think, makes a lot of sense. So these are some examples that come to mind in terms of what shifts I think we are making to your question, Faisal. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Anand. Now coming to you, Manish. So a lot like business is kind of reinventing. It's not just marketing. The entire process are changing. We are seeing like pre-sales, everything, changing itself. So how are you seeing marketing kind of adapting to that need? And what is kind of, what kind of innovations are happening maybe within your organization or, which you see or kind of foresee are going to happen in the marketing space?
Yeah, Faisal, I think a very, very important question that you asked. And I think Anand was referring to a bunch of the same type of things. So I would say it's a very humongously interesting time because what we always thought was possible has to be done now, right? And necessity is the mother of invention. We have all known the adage. But at this point, you know, I see a bunch of things changing, not just marketing. First, let's just say how business is changing. Everything that we could do earlier was split between the human touch stuff that we did by meeting people physically, going to their offices, you know, you know, taking lunches and golf meetings and stuff like that, and then all the follow up and all the not emotional stuff was being done digitally. I think that's the biggest change that has happened, right? At this moment, before even marketing, the world is actually changing to do everything human in a digital form.
Hmm.
Right? We are learning digitally, we are doing this conference digitally, we are selling digitally, we are experimenting digitally. And one of the most important things that has happened is digital is now not a side thing where you do the follow up. It's the main thing, and that has happened for business. It doesn't only happen for marketing, but it has also happened for marketing. So in our marketing world, we are saying, especially in a B2B world, our marketing has always been human touch based, right? We are connecting with so few customers. We are not. We are a lot more about making an impression on a customer than making millions of impressions on the crowd. When you are in a B2B world, we are seeing that move to digital, and that's the biggest transition we are seeing. That digital, which was meant to be a count the impressions method of marketing, has actually now become a make an impression and make that human connect kind of marketing. So there are multiple ways I can see. I'll just give you a few examples because you said the innovation. One is obviously we are able to count a lot of the softer stuff that we had earlier. Um, that is actually great that even the emotive stuff we can count. But I'll give you a few examples. Like, for example, we wanted to develop a fiber to the home kit, right? All of us are using this. Fiber is very important. It's making sure that we can do video instead of just emails in the early days. But fiber to the home kit is an extremely important thing because it has to, it's a physical object that is required for the digital to run, right? And we would always do this with our customers by designing it in their labs and them designing in our labs. Now we can't do that. We have to meet them and deliver the stuff. The logistics has to happen, but the design meetings cannot happen. So one interesting thing is we are actually collaborating using 2-3 cameras and a 3D printing and 3D exchange software for doing actual designs. And I'm actually amazed to see that a thing that we could not even do earlier by less than 3 or 4 flights and going to the countries that we had to go to sell this. We have seen those product designs happening online using 3D collaboration tools. So that's amazing. I mean, I wouldn't say that technology wasn't available, but people kind of figured out a way to actually have one computer to do the 3D imaging and the other one to see the face. So you created a little mini studio in the guys in our innovator, in our technical guys' home, and you were actually able to complete a sale doing that. So that I found was amazing. The other one I would say is that for about 3,500 or so of our employees, we always had, our friendly banter at the water cooler. Now the water cooler's not there, so we've been doing things like this, town halls very often, and our team is actually using things like, so there's one screen on which you're doing the town hall, and the other screen is that little screen in the hand on which you're doing, how are you feeling today? Do you think this is the right thing for the company to do? So we use a tool called Mentimeter, and we ask people questions, and we are seeing live response of what is happening across people. Now, that was also possible earlier, and I must tell, we have done this a few times. But to see that we are so connected across all the, 20 or so countries that we are operating out of, without actually having to travel, whether it is for internal branding or for external branding, whether it is in social or it is in actually the sales process, is amazing. One last example I'll give you is, I think a lot of us have become content creators now. So Faisal, you have some real competition from people like us. We're all making really good video content, educational content. I didn't know many of us were video makers and content writers, so that's also a very new innovation happening at a society level. I am actually very pleased with where we are going. I do want social distancing to end. I still think there is a place for us to meet physically, and hopefully that time comes soon. Thanks, Faisal.
Sure. Thanks, Manish. I think this situation has made your job easy. Now nobody will ask what's fiber going to do for me.
Yeah, hopefully. Still a long way to go, though. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Coming to you, Anuj, you represent entirely a different, ball game or whatever you want to say. And Xiaomi has always been looked at as a brand innovating, and I would say you were the first to kind of bring a lot of digitalization, in the entire space. If we talk of the mobile industry or the smartphone industry per se. So, and you are a brand which is directly in touch with the end user. Okay, so what are you seeing happening on that side, uh, which is kind of revamping the entire marketing strategy for you, including maybe messaging,
Mhm.
and other things.
Yeah, I mean, Xiaomi, right from the start, we were born on a social platform.
Hmm.
So we have been social first, we have been online first. So in a way, everyone else is now starting to crowd our space, right? And we've always been online. Uh,
Hmm.
from our consumers' perspective, also, if I look at India and our journey in India, it's been close to 6 years now, and all our consumers and our communities have been online and they've grown with us. So from in a way, things don't really change too much for us. Uh, we continue to push more on social. We continue to talk a lot more to our consumers. Uh, a couple of things obviously have changed. Like what Anand also mentioned, you got to be very sensitive about your messaging, especially with the current conditions.
Hmm.
And instead of pushing more on the sales front or pushing more in terms of, here's a new product and why don't you buy it, we had to change tracks on that. Uh, what we realized was we had this huge platform, we've got that reach. So we did two things. One was, and this was the first knee-jerk reaction because that's who we've been, is how can we help the community? So one of the first few things we kind of put together was a way to raise funds uh, to fight against COVID and of course help people on ground.
Hmm.
And this was quite interesting because internally we are built for speed. So within a matter of days, we put together a platform where people could come and contribute. Of course, Xiaomi has also put in a lot of money towards PM cares. So we put in almost about 15 crores towards that. But what was really heartening is a lot of our consumers, a lot of our community members, fans also came and contributed. So we've collected another few crores based on that one. Uh, we also kind of reached out and said, hey, we've got a big channel. Uh, how can we utilize that big channel? We've got, say, about 10,000 retailers out there. So just a quick check with them. And again, it's all always connected. We've always been talking about stuff. Instead of talking about a product, we were asking about how do we help our local communities. So one more action that came out of that, and it was actually an idea that came in from one of our retailers, is can we provide food packets? So now essentially you had 10,000 people out there from the Xiaomi family helping out people who were in need, who needed basic amenities. So that obviously was one part, and we were able to utilize that really well. Uh, does that have a direct impact in, say, my marketing KPIs, so to say, which we put together at the beginning of the year? No, it does not. But at least if we can use the speed and size of a company that Xiaomi is, it obviously helps in the larger, stay that we have as what we've been doing in India. Now, the second part was, we've got consumers, we've got fans. Even if they were looking at newer products during the lockdown, they could not buy them. Here, what we did was we moved into more of an interactive mode, teaching them how to use our products better. So one example is we started this series on YouTube,
Hmm.
which were almost like a daily series. Now, again, uh, I wouldn't say this is completely going out of our way, but we had to just change tracks that we could provide them with more information. So the series was called the Redmi Creator Academy, And the basic philosophy was, on a yearly basis, we've had tens of millions of people using our Redmi branded phones. Now, these are the guys who are powering, your YouTube. They are powering your TikToks of the world, and all the social media platforms. How can we help them create better content? So we had this whole series. Actually, we've done with 2 seasons, and we're getting into the third one. Could be simple things like food photography to something a little larger, which could be saying how to just create general videos that'll
Hmm.
get more engagement. So we've been doing that from a marketing messaging perspective. So we've kind of tweaked that a bit. Uh, One big challenge, and this obviously is something that was not core to our DNA till about 2017, was our retail family. Now, like I said, we've got almost about 10,000 retailers on our side, and these guys were of, because of the lockdown, because of the restrictions, and even today, because of the entire situation, which is this virus, they are seeing lower footfalls than before.
Hmm.
So here is something that we had to kind of put together. Uh, what we've done is, using our knowledge of how an online consumer buys and marrying that with what an offline consumer needs. So someone who was going into a retail store, and how would they kind of purchase products? And we basically married these two, gave a platform. We created a platform. I think it took us about 2 to 3 weeks to create this entire platform, where a consumer, when he logs in through his phone, using his location, obviously if he has to give access to that location, but the moment he does that, he can see the nearest Xiaomi store, what stock that guy is carrying, how much is, I mean, does he have this particular phone that I'm looking for, or this particular power bank, or maybe my headphones are broken and I need a headphone for continuing my Zoom calls. And they're able to kind of log into that system, see who's the nearest retailer, what price am I getting it, and I just express interest. Now, the advantage is, of course, you get the hyper local solution. You get it timely because this guy is probably within like a kilometer of where you are. Uh, and it's also solving for a large set of retailers who were genuinely suffering because of this lockdown.
Okay. Thanks, Anuj. And I know, like, we have been like following what Xiaomi has been doing all these times. Of course, those are always like encouraging things to see. Moving on to you, Jayatri. You are in one advantageous position in other brands. At least you can fulfill or deliver your product because you don't have a physical delivery per se. So you don't have logistics issues being faced. So, what does marketing mean for you for your brand in such a situation?
Well, I think I'll be speaking on the behalf of everyone in this webinar when I say that, just the experience of dealing with a situation like COVID is new to all of us. So, as we are grappling through this pandemic, there's been constant learning, reassessing, and modifying our marketing strategy basis the need of the hour.
Hmm.
And for a couple of reasons, one is fortunately, like we said, there's no playbook. But the second and the most important thing is, things that were relevant 2 weeks back may stop being relevant today. And it's especially true for a company like ours. To give you an example, I remember in the early days of lockdown, and that too for an extended period, the central government was coming up with guidelines, the state governments were following it, and the moment we were ready with our first set of creatives, things were changing.
Hmm.
So there was a rapid change in creative churn and campaign churn that was required to do, which kind of stretched the limits and the resources of the marketing team. So as a leader, one of the most and challenging, question in front of me is, how do I adapt to this change so that the team doesn't burn out? Because that was a real chance, and it was happening for a good extended month and a half. The things had to be, delivered on the go at a breakneck speed. So that was, from an operational perspective, I think that was one of the most important challenges that we faced in this period. But from a business perspective, if I have to look at what marketing needed to deliver for the organization, I think it's important to talk a little. I mean, I don't know whether the entire group here knows us as a business. To give you a little context, we are a B2B2C firm, which is a fintech platform that delivers last mile banking connectivity to Bharat. So our products and services are meant for the underserved, underbanked India, and we provide through 10 lakh and more retail touchpoints spread across 17,000 pin codes in the country, banking services to the community. We have a lot of services ranging from, cash withdrawal, cash deposit, money transfer, travel, bill payment. So the product portfolio includes more than 18 to 20 products. What was critical for us was to evaluate what are the services that make sense in this period, because not all the 20 products was relevant.
Hmm.
um, One of the things that we very carefully did was that, anything, not just from marketing, from business marketing across the organization, anything that we did was from a goal to alleviate the pain, to be of service from a position of empathy. And that kind of formed the basis of any of our communication. So before the lockdown, we had devised a campaign which was Zid Aage Badhne Ki, which was like, the unstoppable ambition that is there in the organization to actually lead India to a more progressive future, to be of service to the underbanked, underserved community. But when COVID changed, we had to act within a span of this campaign just launched, and within a period of a month, we had to actually pivot from this position and then rephrase it as Zid Surakshit Aage Badhne Ki, Zid Seva Karne Ki. And this sense of seva actually forms the layer or the basis in which all our communication lies right now, and also actually points us towards the initiative that we do. So, for example, launching cash at home facility for wider India, setting up hygienic ATM stalls in social in various societies, or running campaigns that actually tells our 10 lakh plus retailers how to protect themselves when they're putting themselves in the line of fire. These retailers, when they're opening their shops and serving the communities, they are at risk of catching the infection, right? So we have to appreciate, acknowledge, and teach them how to protect themselves. So everything and anything that we are doing from an engagement marketing perspective is aligned towards serving our consumers, towards serving our retailers. And one of the things that's important for organizations widely to recognize is a lot of these initiatives that we do may not translate into direct revenue. So we are all used to doing services which kind of, helps in the final KPIs of the organization. But some of these are more trust building initiatives, and those softer elements now become very important. And I think that's been one of the biggest learning during this period.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think there is some lag in your feed, so we could see the video is lagging behind audio. Okay. Anyways, thanks for your input, and it's definitely like we got a different picture of marketing as well, and I think the message which is coming out clear so far is that things have changed a bit, the focus has changed, and obviously a lot of it that is like powered by a lot of innovation. Now coming to you, Jagan, you are a brand who is B2B, B2C, like you're kind of everywhere. Uh, so you could give us some perspective of both the ends. And I know, like there is some spike in demand for some of your products right now. So how do you see the role of brand custodian changing in such a situation?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. I really appreciate you for the opportunity. Okay. And it's a very tough act to follow after 4 season marketers talk. Okay. Having said that, okay, I'll try and focus on things which I learned over the last 1 month. Okay. So every day you get to see a statement saying this is the new normal. Okay. What I've really learned is I don't think there's anything called a normal out there. Okay. So every day, is a new experience. So you got to probably go with the tide and then try and find out what's best that is for the next 1 week, for the next 1 month, and for the next 3 months, right? And then you take it as it comes. Okay. To me, this is one very, very important learning, right? As basis what's happened over the last 45 days, right? It's literally disrupted our lives, right? All our plans have gone for a toss. Okay, like how Anuj said, right, we are a very digital-led organization, right? 4-5 years ago, we decided that we'll move majority of our ATL initiatives into the digital space, right? And a good percentage of our BTL initiatives also in the digital space, right? So, right, we had, for example, right? So we had a brand campaign planned, right, with 5 videos that were in production. Okay, so entire thing got disrupted. Okay, so what do you do, right? Right. So how do you quickly readjust to the situation, right? Now, this disruption is not just short term; it's mid term, right? Your next 6 months of plan, right, is actually changing, right? You spoke about B2C. We have 2 of our popular brands, SanDisk and WD, right, in the B2C space. While there are a lot of challenges, right, across different industry verticals with respect to demand. Okay, our industry, right, luckily is in a space where people are continuing to create data using their different host devices, be it smartphones, be it PCs, be it high-end workstations. They're continuing to create content, right? So that needs to be stored, okay, and that needs to be preserved, right? So that's something which we are looking at as a sort of a bright spot within this aspect, okay? And we are playing to our brand strengths. Okay? I think that, I believe, is really important. You don't need to drastically change your messaging, right? So as Anand said, right, you don't need to make any drastic alteration to your messaging. You got to play to your brand strength. Every brand has a role to play in the society, has a positive message to the society. Okay, so same is the case with us, right? So we actually stand for capturing, preserving, okay, analyzing, and sharing content as and when it's required. Okay, this applies for all customers that are in the B2C space and B2B space, right? So this is a positive message we are actually reiterating out there. When you go and look at how the consumer behavior is at present, right? So I'm reiterating that because I won't say there's a change in habit, because change in habit typically takes a good 6 to 9 months for you to make a behavioral change. Okay? At present, it's more about, hey, you know what? Okay, how do I secure my family, right? How do I stay safe? Okay? At the same time, how do I ensure that there is continuity in my professional life? How do I ensure that there is continuity in my personal life, be it socializing, right? When it comes to children, how do I ensure that there's continuity in studies? Okay? How do I ensure that there is continuity in my own entertainment, right? So kids group around and play, and that's a strict no-no, right? Okay? So each and every aspect right now, is integrated with technology, right? Now, this is what we as brand custodians at Western Digital are playing it out, right? So we really focus on how do you build home essentials, right? How do you build how do you build very positive stories, right? We really don't want to put out anything which is closely related to the challenges which consumers are playing, right? Positive stories saying, you know what, okay, enhance your work life while at home, and then you try and present use cases to tell people which is beyond just your products, right? You just can't talk about products during this time. To tell them now, how do you benefit, what are the things that you need to really focus on while you're doing this? Okay. Similarly, if you talk about children, right? So study at home, work, play apart, right? Play apart together, right? So those are very, very important aspects which are running right now. Okay. So you educate your consumer. Educate. You really go and share your thoughts with your consumer as to how you think you can really benefit using the solutions that we have at our hand. Okay, so those are some of the things that we have actively started doing. Okay, which is more like a cost marketing within the current environment for the community. Okay, so that's more to do with B2C and consumer, right? B2B and consumer, if you look at it, typically, a CIO, is our primary decision maker for a large storage solution he wants to do, right? If you look at it, what's running in his mind is, hey, you know what? Okay, how do I ensure that I keep running my infrastructure in this challenge? Right, he can't have people going to offices to manage the situation, right? How do I for the next 6 months plan my outlook without increasing cost, but at the same time not compromising on efficiency? Those are important inputs that we as marketers will need to share with our customers, right? So that is exactly what we're doing right now, to ensure that we provide the right type of information and let the consumer make the choice. Okay, and given the fact that everybody's got a lot of time today, your commute is gone, right? At the same time, right, you have time at home for doing multiple things. So a lot of time and effort is spent by customers, okay, both in the B2B and B2C space in exploration, right? So that is where you actually engage with them to share your thoughts so that they make the right choices once things, right, get back to normal. Okay, so this is another interesting aspect. Okay, coming about talking about channel partners, right, retailers. Okay, so we have two types of, right, business partners. One is retailers for our B2C products, and then channel partners or system integrators for our our B2B initiatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest challenge right now is, right, as what, right, Anuj was pointing about, right? How do I quickly move into a, right, a digital model for me to, right, create demand, also fulfill demand. Okay. Now on the B2C space, what we realized is, okay, it is really important for us to provide simple digital tools to get the retailer engaged with this customer, right? So we created something called, like, a Go Digital Pack. Okay, it is really, really simple. It could be something to do with a digital flyer which you can use with on WhatsApp to the existing customers. Okay, so I'm just talking about one part of it, but it's a very nice pack, right, which he can actually use over the next 3 to 4 months to, right, facilitate his interaction with this customer as things start opening up. Right, same is the case with, right, with a large channel partner base which you have on the B2B side. They don't have the luxury of actually opening up their shops right now because they have to go and meet customers to generate business, right? We have tried to help them utilize this time for knowledge enhancement, right? So we've built up, right, we quickly put together a virtual university, right? We've got WhatsApp for Business enabled to get up approximately around 5,000 people network, okay, through which we actually have been providing them with constant education. During normal business times, they don't do it. Okay, they don't do it because they don't get into the space, they are busy. So again, right, if you look at it, everything, the underlying factor is technology, and you overlay with that with digital solutions, right? So this is how, right, we have been actually reorienting our marketing initiatives to, right, help our business partners and also actively engage with the end customers during these times. Okay, we need to wait and watch how things unfold to decide on what would be our go forward strategy.
Okay. I'll thanks, Gagan. I think obviously you had B2B and B2C angles, so we had to hear you out in breadth. So thanks for it. And coming to you, Amit, you represent entirely a different segment of business, but I personally admire your brand a lot because a lot of innovative things happening. Especially that Irfan Khan thing. May he rest in peace. So how do you see this space? What is the role of a marketer right now?
Hi everyone. I think everybody here in the panel has already spoken in detail about what has hit us so badly, and nobody fundamentally was prepared to sort of encounter that. But from my perspective, I think it is one of the most interesting times as a marketer because all that you have learned so far in your life as a professional, comes down to pieces because it doesn't make any sense today, right? I guess digitization was already, moving things, at a great speed, but I think COVID has just sort of, added a lot of acceleration to the chain that we are all a part of right now. If you look at, and as a marketer, I think, you need to be, a counter of your customers. And if you look at the Maslow's theory also, the entire pyramid of needs has actually shifted to the very bottom, wherein they're looking at getting their safety and physiological needs getting addressed by the brands. So I think this is the very time, wherein we as a brand decided to, come forward and help the consumers. Because, so while Syska is known for its flagship segment solution, which is in the space of LED lighting, but we are also a very, very diversified group as we speak now. So we are also in the space of grooming appliances, mobile appliances, wires and cables, smart devices as well, and so on and so forth. So I think in these stressful times, the brand realized that there was a great need of the grooming solutions from the consumers themselves. And while the the traditional retail was down, and unfortunately even the online partners are also down because of the situation we were a part of, we realized that these grooming appliances were counted as essentials first of all, by the authorities, and also you had these local kirana shops and medical shops up and running. I think these were the true saviors for all of us, in last 2 months of time. So we had to, as a brand, quickly come into action and ensure that, how do we reach out to these avenues so that customers can get the solutions from Syska as a brand. That was one part of it in terms of the product and in terms of distribution. And in terms of content slash marketing, we were able to dish out a lot of content pieces, helping consumers to style themselves, being at home only, being safe. So I think these are some of the interesting, incidents that we have experienced in last 2 months. In fact, not only for my grooming appliances vertical, but also the demand for mobile accessories has really shot the roof. In fact, the demand for smart devices is also, touching new heights, because now people are spending more time at home. So they want to also sort of experience, the lighting solutions which are being, away from only on and off. They want to create an experience. So I think we are, as a brand, looking at it very, very actively now, and trying to meet these demands the moment the lockdown gets over. So I hope to remain light years ahead as a brand and as a marketeer also. Let's see.
Okay, uh, great. I think we are done with the first round, and just Amit, I think for in your case, even Ford would always prescribe, like, factories need good lighting, so it was essential since time. Uh, coming. So I'll just move to the next round, and I would request very quick comments from the panelists, and then we can move to some audience questions. So we have this typical view of looking at market from ATL, BTL, digital print, all those kind of cuts and slices. So what do you see, in your opinion, the future course with respect to these, segments of marketing? What's going to probably grow? What's going to probably, scale down? Again, I would start with Anand very quickly. Your thoughts on it?
I think fundamentally, Faisal, I think it's not going to dramatically change everything. And I think, I think Amit touched on Maslow's hierarchy, and I am a big believer in that as well. I think that hierarchy fundamentally remains the same. You could go up and down based on the situation. There would be some permanent changes for sure. I think, in terms of people, even if we come out of from the other side, absolutely fine. I think there'll be memories that will linger for a while, and people will want to be more distant in general. So from a marketing mix point of view, I think what we may tend to do is to be a little caught up with ourselves, more inside looking. I think we continue to look outside. I got some great examples of consumer stories from the panelists, and I'm amazed to see how quickly each of the firms have reacted to consumer changes. So I think we should keep that as the primary focus. I think we'll be fine. Right now, people say, "Oh, news channels are number one," but I really can't stand news channels more than 5 minutes, because it's the same thing. Everybody is crying the same thing. I would rather just read it off my iPad or something. So I think fundamentally it's it's at a human level, and I think we should keep it there, keep it real, and I think we'll be fine. And, yeah, thanks.
Great. Coming to you, Manish. What's your view of this, restructuring? What will happen to ATL, BTL? What will happen to print and digital? I've seen like STL as one of the most aggressive brands right now digitally. I don't know whether you do daily a webinar or so, but I can see at least probably you're doing maybe a couple of them in a day. So what? Are you muted, Manish? We can't hear you. Are you muted?
Sorry, yes, I was muted. Didn't realize that. Yeah. So you had two questions. One is what is going to change and stay, and then the other question, I think, was about STL and its marketing approach. So let me answer the general one first. I do think digital and video will pick up very, very much more. Like, we're going to see changes that would have otherwise happened in 5 years happen in a couple of months, and people will stabilize. So we are already seeing twice or thrice But I think the number that we will stabilize at is digital spends will actually go up by 5 times or 7 times. I think video content creation will become a lot more democratized. YouTube did it first time around, and but the ratio in YouTube was 95% were consumers and 5% or lesser. I think it's more like 98 and 2 were the consumer to creator ratio. I think the consumer to creator ratio for video content will go nearly to 40% people will also be creators. That will be a fundamental change. Um, I think the third thing that will happen is everyone will look for bit-sized content, just like Anand talked about a moment ago. We like to read because it is a pace-controlling device. When you go to television, the format has been that of filling the time, so they keep unnecessarily teasing an issue for a very long period. And in the new version where people actually don't see television anymore, my television is now just a screen um, for my Google Chrome and my Fire Stick. So I actually am looking for content that is short and packaged. It's video, short and packaged, and I can move fast. So I think lots of digital, lots of video, and attention spans going down, which will mean that people will cover a lot more things. Um, and I think somebody was asking a question: will this mean that human connection will go down? I think no, it won't go down. It will switch. Human connection will move from having long conversations with a lot of people to a lot of conversations with small conversations with people again. So it will still be people. So I think that's what will change in marketing. Everything will go digital. In my view, that was already happening. What that would mean is print and television, in whatever form it exists, will become actually more expensive. A lot of companies might not be able to survive because the amount of print and digital that will be consumed will be low, but it will become more elitist. Only a few print and digital will remain, and that will be very, very elitist, right? India will not happen. This won't happen in India very fast. Our connectivity and quality of connectivity is poor. You will see this happen in the US a lot further and faster. But India will follow because as connectivity happens, this will happen. So I think fundamental changes that were going to happen in 4 or 5 years will happen in a short duration. I want to know if people believe this will end up increasing the marketing budgets or decreasing. I will tell my opinion later. We have modeled a bit of this, so I can share that. But there will be a shift. What we are doing with STL is we believe that marketing is a lot more about sharing knowledge and thoughts, just like you are doing. I don't want to tell you about my products. What will you do with my products if you don't believe that we are going to be coming up with better products in the future? You are not building a purchase relationship for one product. You're building a relationship with a thought leader. And that's the reason why I think discussing with people, sharing ideas, becoming very, very absorptive of ideas, because, the world's not going to come up with ideas from a company. We believe in the ecosystem. So in STL, we are actually building our products and solutions by working with other companies, by partnering with startups, by working with, companies from India. You'll be surprised at the quality of high-tech work that's being done in India. We are getting the best 5G solutions to Japan, to the Bay Area, right? I mean, we are able to do this stuff from here. And for me, marketing is a lot about content and thought leadership. And that's why webinars and these chats and stuff like that. So that's where STL is going. Humongous amount of content creation. I think everyone talked about this. Jagan talked about his university. We started a university in the same time, and we have reached about 72,000 people who are, people who actually implement the internet on the streets. We needed to train them in this time frame. How do you do that? You have to create content now. So, yeah, I think thought leadership is marketing. Content is marketing today.
Great. So other than WhatsApp universities, we are seeing some more purposeful and meaningful universities. That's a good news to happen. Coming to you, Anuj. You are a consumer-centric brand, and these ATL, BTL activities been a lot for you. And of course, digital print, and of course, brand versus performance marketing. So how do you see these things kind of shape?
Okay, so that's quite a loaded question. Let me try and break it down. Uh, from a consumer perspective, I think the consumer journeys, like what Anand mentioned, would not fundamentally change. They are still looking for some kind of a similar communication or information at whichever buying cycle they are in. Uh, how we get this to them might have to change. And this is what Manish was also saying. I think video is king. I don't know if video will be able to substitute 100% of their needs, but it's going to do a large part. There will be something that will be needed for a more personalized experience, and we got to all figure that out. I don't know if it is going to be AR or VR, but just from a product experience and how you use it, we'll have to kind of expand into video plus something a bit more. What's interesting is the moment you are willing to pivot, it can grow to a large number. And I'll give you an example. So it's a personal example. We've got product launches happening all the time for Xiaomi phones, and Redmi Note continues to be one of the biggest series for smartphones in India. Now, every time we launched a Redmi Note phone, we used to have an on-ground event. We used to call all the fans over, our tight-knit community, and on average, we'd have about 1,500 to 2,000 people attend a launch event. Of course, the energies and all that are brilliant. But this time, and this was even before the lockdown came in, we decided that we are not going to get so many people into a closed space. And we decided to go completely digital. So it was a YouTube only launch event where we were in office, uh, launching it for the people. And of course, our metric has been those 1,500 people on ground or 2,000 people on ground, watching us live there. We were able to scale it up to almost about 100,000 plus people watching us live at that given time. What we realized was by pivoting just the way we are getting this communication through and the way we were doing stuff, we were able to reach a lot more people, and frankly in a fraction of the cost. There are no logistics, there's no travel, there's no huge sets to be kind of put together. So I think efficiency is going to come in, and that I will kind of segue into your second question, where performance versus brand metrics, so to say. uh, I've always had this opinion, and this has been a little more controversial. At least my earlier marketing bosses used to hate this. I would say that anytime you want to hide how your marketing campaign has done, you call it a brand campaign. I think everything is performance focused, everything is metric driven. And if it does not impact your business in the short to medium term, I don't think we can afford to do something like that today.
Okay, that's a good one, Anuj. Good, I think we tend to hide things.
Anuj, we can have a debate on that at some point.
Okay, moving on to you, Jayatri. Like, how do you see this mix getting changing in coming times?
See, we are a B2C organization, and we are also a startup. So for us, the mix was always very focused on owned and earned media compared to paid media. We literally made very judicious use of the paid media, and mostly to do hardcore acquisition activities, which right now to an extent is impacted because one leg of our acquisition activity also meant on location KYC, which for known reasons is not possible right now. So paid media didn't really isn't really a big part of our media mix, even hasn't been a part of our media mix at any point. Like most of the panelists have said, I think we also believe very, very firmly in video content and social. We are a social first company. We do a lot of engagement with our over 10 lakh plus retailers on social platforms. We have more than 450 odd videos on our YouTube channel, which is one of our most, if you go and look at it, we have millions of subscribers there. So video content is important for us, and we will always continue to keep a lot of focus on that channel. One of the important things that we need to achieve from a marketing perspective is also how we train and engage with the retailers. And we believe that using YouTube or other social platforms in creating content from the users, which can then be used to train others, is very, very critical. So whether it is YouTube Live or Facebook Live, a lot of that we use very actively for training purposes. So yeah, I mean, I for our organization, the focus on owned and earned media is important compared to paid media, but I don't think there is one shoe that fits all. So, depending on how relevant is your product in the future and how much of a headway you have in terms of your spending power, like a lot of people mentioned, yes, today media may be a little cheaper because not many people are, actively doing paid media campaigns at this point. A lot of people may be watching a lot of infotainment, news, and other formats because of more time availability that they have. So if you have the headway, if your product is relevant, this might be an opportune time to go and grab that market share and mind space.
Okay, thanks, Jayatri. I think we got the sense. Now, I think it would be unfair to say if not marketing, then who would speak? So we have to definitely extend something for our episode. So I would request if you could just hold on for some more 5 minutes. Now, moving very quickly to you, Jaganathan, how do you see this equation changing? If I can have your quick thoughts.
Sure. Right. I think digital, right, will definitely grow. Right. That's going to become the lead media. Right. I think everybody's reiterated that fact. Okay. A couple of other things which I see like gaining prominence. Right. One is right. We always sort of give a very low weightage to PR. Okay? I believe that's going to become a strong play because content is going to be king, as everybody's highlighted. So I believe PR will have a very, very strong role to play as we move forward. Okay. The other place where I think there is going to be an interesting transition is the BTL part, right? So the below the line initiatives, right, have always been traditionally offline engagements, right? Be it with your channel or retail ecosystem or with your end customers, right? So that is going to definitely transition into a healthy 50-50 mix between digital and offline engagement. Offline will come back once, once things get back to normal, but I think efficiencies of digital interaction in the BTL space will continue to grow. To give you an example, I firmly believe that a demo on demand model will be very, very active in the retail space as we move forward, which I think is going to be an interesting evolution of how we have all now become reasonably comfortable using video-based interaction. Okay, so you'll see that both in the B2B and B2C space. B2B space is like this. It's even even more beneficial there because you can actually do a live customer demo from your labs and feed it into a space, right? And for a retailer, if a customer is not able to reach out to an existing retailer, it's easy for him to quickly access them, do a call, right? It could be through any of the video interaction platform, and you will find this, right? So there's some of the new and interesting things which I think will come into the marketing mix.
Thanks, Jagan. Your views, Amit, on this?
So I agree with the panelist. I guess there is going to be a lot more pressure in terms of achieving the ROI, for all the marketers out there. One thing that I want to put here very clearly is that we used to always talk about this traditional percentage allocation, between ATL, BTL, and digital, and these percentages also differ for different brands and different segments. I guess going ahead, this traditional mindset of putting certain percentages won't work because I think we have to be far more agile, because ultimately it is for the consumers who are not very confident right now, and hence we are going to use a lot more digital to reach out to them and engage with them. But come to think of it, ultimately, being humans, we have the tendency to socialize, to go out and to connect with others as well, which is right now a big challenge. But I'm sure the kind of vaccine we are looking forward for, when it gets developed, it is available, the consumer gets the confidence to go out and connect with others with a lot of confidence. This whole BTL segment also will sort of come up again, which is no more to be seen right now. So I guess we have to be far more agile, in short, fundamentally as a marketer, to be very, very ready, basis what the consumer is showing you as a sign, to come ahead and interact with your brand. So I guess that is what keeps us on our toes all the time.
Hey, Faisal, you're on mute, I think.
I
In case
guess.
you. Yeah, can't hear you, Faisal.
Yeah.
We all
But,
need better connectivity, guys.
but are we audible to each other right now?
We are able
Yeah,
to hear. I think the people might also be there. 70 plus.
yeah, we can hear you now, Faisal.
Okay, okay. So I was saying, in the interest of time, what I'll do, I have some questions from the audience. I'll try to mix them up and have a last word from you. Okay, all of you. So I think more or less we have got a sense that video is going to be heavy there. We are going to see content-driven things. A lot digital as usual is going to be heavy there. So just some last thoughts from each one of you. What should the advertising industry do to align with your expectations going forward? And what kind of services, what kind of tools, what kind of competencies should they kind of gain or work upon during this time to serve and meet your expectations better. Starting off with you, Anand.
Yeah, thanks, Faisal. I know we're out of time, so I'll make this really brief. I am going to make the same point I made for the other two questions as well, is that the ad agency should also keep a very close watch on consumer trends, attitudes, sentiments, because I think those insights should basically drive whatever they do for the client, be it be it creative, be it media, and enough, I think was talked about in terms of how these things are changing. So I think that's the primary thing I would say. And then from our point of view, of course, again, I think these are times where it gives an opportunity to kind of question all traditional things, and at the same time keep an eye and be ready for the future, which may be a very different future that it might bring. So those are really my parting thoughts. Yeah, thanks, Faisal.
Thanks, Anand. Manish, over to you. Your views on it.
Yeah, I got that. Very similar to the views that Anand and I think at some point Jagan mentioned was that the customer journey and the human journey remains the same. So as long as the agencies are thinking about making an impression on people through connecting with them, a lot of their logical work needs to remain the same. I guess they need to be a lot more content driven because people will need content, and then there'll be a lot of thought and thought leadership driven, and maybe a lot more short video driven. So they'll have to become more talented in terms of displaying their approach for the new digital video snapshot measurement performance marketing world that has become the dominant world. But at the core, they need to remain the human to human connect thing that they have been really good at. So, and I see a lot of agencies making that shift. I see a lot of agencies making
Okay,
that would be
great.
my.
Anuj, your thoughts?
So when you talk about advertising, I'm going to say both creative side and the media side. And I know it's not going to be easy, but everyone needs to really speed up. It's relevant for now, and going forward, if you are slower than others, you are going to be left behind. Moment marketing is going to be important, and things are going to change so quickly that if you start with the traditional model of your brief has come in and then you're going to sit on that brief for some time before you react and come back, by the time you go back with even your first draft, the world might have moved on. So things have to be really, really quickly. So in a nutshell, just speed up.
Great. Jayatri, your views on it?
I absolutely echo what Anuj has just said, that speed becomes very, very critical, and catching those opportunities that the moments throw up is important. The other thing that I want to point out is that, we are all running after one brands. You are running after multiple brands. You have more exposure than us. So if there are learnings, there are synergies that can be accomplished between the various brands, please let us know of those examples, and we are willing to look at it. So let's learn together. I think share. I mean, because you have so much more exposure, I'm sure you would know, those opportunities between the different brands that you service that can come together and do much more for the ecosystem right now.
Great, great. I think collaboration has to happen always. So, Jagan, your views?
Yeah, right. So for agencies based out of India, one big opportunity which I see is going global on content creation. Okay, so boundaries broken. So you have great opportunity to sort of become content powerhouse. Okay, given the fact that our ability to master knowledge is or master language is also very high. Okay, so only thing is you have to be smart on pricing. So that's I see as a big opportunity, right? That's emerging. The second trend is social commerce. Okay, you got to quickly learn that integration. So that will really, really help. Okay, the third one is okay. Right now, okay, the work from a home scenario is sort of resulting in some friction with respect to your ideation capabilities. Normally, you do ideation sitting in a room, right? So right now, you got to do that from a remote location, right? So that's something which you'll probably need to quickly ace. Okay, so that's super critical. Okay. The last one is okay, identified cost-effective opportunities, even in the traditional media. In the short term, those are things which are going to come up, okay, and share with us. Thank you.
Great. Last word with you, Amit.
So my advice to all the marketing agencies is going to be don't act and behave like one. Don't behave as if you are just an agency. I think the time has come when you have to be a business partner. That is how I sort of approach my stakeholders when I talk to them. The reason being that it is not only about the creative solutions or the marketing challenges that you put across them and they come up with a solution. I think it needs to be far more holistic because the challenge is not only for marketeers but for the entire business as well. So how can they increase the resilience for the entire ecosystem is something I'm sure they will be having a point of view that is more important to hear right now. And last but not the least, I think everybody's talking about what is the next normal, the new normal, or the new abnormal. Nobody knows where it is going to lead us, right? So don't panic. Hold on, and ensure that whatever you do, whatever you suggest, you look at it from a consumer point of view first before you look at it from a marketeer point of view. Because if you are not convinced as a consumer, I keep on repeating that no matter whatever you do, it will not resonate with anybody else for sure. So I think that's important from my point of view.
Okay. Thanks, panelists. I think we had wonderful discussion. Honestly, I was not having idea that it's going to be so engaging, and I still feel that there are a lot many things which remained unanswered. I hope that we can soon again reconvene and answer so many queries for the advertising and marketing industry. But these sessions and your time is something very, very precious, and I think everybody in the industry would value it and take learnings today and plan about their future. There were some very great insights which came from all of you. From techARC point of view, I thank you all for your time. We have been able to put across this to the industry, and as is our job, and I think this is reassuring for us also. Our report format has also to change, so I look at it nothing but a report presentation by in way of a video format now. Probably the charts and graphs are gone days. We have to have these kind of reports going forward. So again, thanks a lot, each one of you, and hope we will continue to have many more such sessions.